Humans on Cardboard, welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. Today we've got a very special deck profile. This is something that I've been working on for a couple weeks now. I've kind of been low key working on this deck that I refer to as the Reptile Pile. It's technically OGDOADIC, reptilian, alien, reptile, good stuff deck splashed in with a couple generic engines that I think really complement it quite well. It's not a super budget list, but I will give you options at the end of the deck profile to talk about what you can do for this list. This list is 53 cards. You can literally like cut almost 15 cards and be right there at 40 cards and play a pure version. I don't think it's quite as competitively viable, but I still think it can actually be like a decent rogue deck, even if you're just playing it without those generic cards. But really cool deck. Like I said, 53 cards. This is a true, like, I worked hard on this one. There's not a lot of content on YouTube at all as far as the new reptile cards and how to play them really competitively. And I feel like this is unironically going to be like the best list you can find on YouTube for the reptile stuff, because there's just not that much great stuff out there, especially with all the cards that have come out over the last couple sets. And I feel really good about this one. So without further ado, let's just jump into it and just take a look at the Reptile Pile, man. Let's go. All right, getting right into the profile here, guys. Let's just start off with the OGDOADIC engine. This is probably the most important engine by far here. Starting off with the big monsters, we do play one each of these three: Ogdo Abyss, Alert, and Curse. Curse is by far the most important one as far as the engine goes. Alert can come up to recur stuff from your banished pile while also helping you get into certain rank 8 plays. Doesn't come up all the time in this list, but it does come up. And then Ogdo Abyss being an awesome win condition slash removal card slash interruption from the main deck is actually huge. A lot of decks right now in the meta are trying to scythe lock you, and so this is like a really good win condition to be able to potentially go through in order to handle those situations after you get scythed. All really good though in their own way. They're bricks to draw, but the deck has no problems with bricks, as you will see as we go. So then we move to the lower level OGDOADIC monsters. Triple Nalia, of course, triple Nunu, of course, and then the one Zoha. This is really standard. These two are great. We want to see them in the hand because they're kind of just like foolish burials anyway. As well as Zoha. Zoha you don't really want to see in the hand. He has a cool effect. His main purpose is just that from grave he can essentially swap himself for any card in hand, which is really cool because the deck doesn't really have a dedicated normal summon. So just getting a level 4 or a reptile to hand to be your normal summon is just really convenient for a lot of the way your extra deck is really built. So really good. Nunu, now you're amazing. Now you're searching all your spells and traps, just so strong. This card is like probably the single reptile monster in your main deck that is the most pivotal to like making the deck work. This and like Curse together, just so good. So that is it for all the OGDOADIC monsters. For our OGDOADIC spells and traps, we're on triple Water Lily and one Serpent Strike. I know, John, only one Serpent Strike. This is the new card. Isn't it good? It is good. It's just not as good as Water Lily. I just find that in most combos, if I have one search off of Nalia, I'm preferring Water Lily. So I like playing Water Lily at 3, so that way if I do hard open it, then we can search for the Serpent Strike. And then this card helps us grind, this card helps us extend even further, depending on what we can get to our hand. And it's good. It's really good, but it's a continuous with hard ones return effects, so you just really don't need more than one, honestly. This ratio has felt really good, honestly. So definitely feel good about that. And I will say this to the day I die. Please, Konami, give us a good OGDOADIC trap card that interrupts the opponent. That is like the last thing I want for OGDOADICs, and I will feel happy there, honestly. All right, moving into the next engine, Reptilians for monsters. Nothing too crazy. Double Codal, one Neami. Codal's really good. It just says if you control a dark reptile, summons itself from the hand. It's also a tuner. That doesn't really come up. We're not really utilizing that too much in this list, but it can be convenient. And then Neami. This is kind of a weird one. You don't have to play this. I will say in a lot of test hands, this won't come up because you're test handing for like going first plays. And this is more like a mid-range, potentially going second card more than anything, but it's still good. It can like quick effect discard itself during the main phase to target an opponent's monster, make it 0, and then as long as your opponent has a 0 attack monster, it can just reborn itself from grave. So it's a decent extender, assuming your opponent is already committed to the board. Just turn 1, it's not always going to be the most useful, but like I've said before, the deck literally just needs, like half the time, you just need any normal summonable reptile, or you just have so many cards that discard anyway that you'll find ways to make use of it. But both really good there. For the spells, obviously triple ramification and double progeny reptiliana. I don't have a lot of foreign cards. This is actually Italian, but this card's actually a really good extender, and ramification is just insane. It lets you do 2 of 3 things by discarding a card: add a reptilian monster, add a reptilian spell or trap, or make an opponent's monster 0, attack 0 permanently. So usually you're just searching this and searching your Codal, which is just really good. This card banishes a reptilian in grave to summon 2 reptilian tokens, and just like insane extenders. This stuff almost entirely, if you just have like any normal summonable reptile, I believe like entirely facilitates the alien setup, which is really strong. The only reason I play 2 of this, even though it requires a reptilian engrave and we don't play a huge package, is 1, we just like already have like a ton of ways to get any of these engraved, even if you don't see this engine except for exactly this. But also because if you see ramifications with spawn, you literally can't use ramifications if you don't have a live another spell and trap target and your opponent doesn't have a monster on the field, like if you're going first. So didn't want to run into that, and honestly drawing the spawn isn't even that bad anyway because the deck so naturally could get access to Codal anyway, so not a big deal. Which takes us to the final reptilian like archetype here is aliens. Just an alien kid and just a planet pollutant virus. This is all you need for this package. I wish the aliens had like better engine cards, honestly. They have that one quick play that's like actually kind of good. The problem is they don't have great things to get off of it just yet, but maybe down the line if we get more alien support, like that could be a thing. But these are just win conditions pretty much. They're technically bricks, but they're really, really strong. The whole idea is you set up Cosmic Slicer with either Alien Kid or this and the Shock Trooper on the field, and it is insane. We'll talk about that more when we get there. If you don't know what these do real quick, Alien Kid says any special summoned monster gets an A counter, and then if a reptile, if an alien, battles a monster with an A counter, that monster loses 300. So really good there, just gets your opponent's monsters A counters, and then this card's like insane. This card tributes an alien to then destroy every monster your opponent controls that does not have an A counter currently, which at that point will be literally everything. So this is just Raigeki on the opponent's turn. Then, until the end of their 3rd turn after this card resolves, every single monster they summon will get an A counter. And that's just a lingering effect. So Cosmic Slicer is just like so hard to beat from that point on in the duel. Really, really insane. But I think you got to play them because they're just, they give you like really insane boards that like so many meta decks can't even like attempt to play through. It's crazy. All right, into the generic reptile stuff. Double Night Sword Serpent and 1 Light Serpent. I will say the one thing I'm looking at right now more than anything is potentially playing a 2nd Light Serpent. It's actually pretty good. These are just generic reptiles. They're good. This guy says if he's sent to grave by card effect, reborn him. He's level 4. He's an extender. He's good. There you go. And then Light Serpent, if he's sent from hand to grave, he summons himself back. So just really good extenders. And Light Serpent's not even once per turn, so that's why I think the second one's like kind of spicy. There, and we have so many cards that discard that like we might even just search Light Serpent just to have like a fodder that even floats for one of our like discarding card effects. And that seems pretty good. But Night Sword Serpent, I really like this at 2 because a lot of turn 1s you're going to use one, and then in the grind you're going to get like a free Water Lily next turn, and like you're just going to have a free Foolish Burial in the next turn, so why not have another free body that's just going to float when you get to send it for free. It's really good. There, and then the last like reptile generic card is Snake Rain. This is the single best card you can open in the deck, pretty much. It gets you at least 2 interruptions with a shitload of follow-up. And by a shitload, I mean like a good amount of follow-up. It's just so good. Discard a card, send 4 different reptiles to the grave. So strong. And pairs with Gamma so nicely. You'll see when we get to him there. But definitely the best card in the deck, at least for this deck's purposes. Then we get into the generic engines. That's most of the reptile stuff here for the main deck. Obviously, you have to play this. I think if you want to play this deck as good as it can be played, I think this engine needs to be a part of it. I don't love that it needs to, because this engine is really expensive right now. As you can see, I actually have proxies for the Enchantress and the right, but I will try to pick those up when I am available to. But for right now, we're just theory crafting this deck. It's just too good. The one funny thing, if you look across all three archetypes, as far as Ogdoadics go, Reptilians go, and Aliens go, there is not a single legit, really good normal summon for any of those archetypes. And so we don't really have a good normal summon, and so why not take advantage of an engine that just like is so strong, giving us a negate. Like one of the problems with the deck is like, if you get Ashed on Snake Rain, it's pretty brutal. Like that card means so much for your strategy. And so being able to set up protection before you even have to try to activate it is just so huge. This engine is, you know, it's generic, it is consistent, it is flexible in terms of like, it just can give you bodies even if it doesn't resolve all the way, to just help you keep extending into a play anyway. Even if you don't get to the Omni Negate, it's so good. It's too good in terms of synergizing with this deck that like I don't think you can not play it. Another one that I'm sure a lot of people won't be too stoked about is the Destiny Hero package. I don't love it either, guys, but like, if my option is like end on a rank 8 and a rank and a like Hyperiton, then like with no follow-up in terms of that stuff on board, then like why would I not just end on like DPE and a Hyperiton, or DPE and a rank 8? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. It just like guarantees you so much more follow-up, and it's not just negates. It's like, it's just so much harder for certain decks to work around, I think. And also like the guaranteed draw 2 later on in the duels, like also really good. The deck gets things out of your hands so easily that like this is always live on the next turn. So it's just too good. I'm sorry. You don't have to play it. There are other win conditions the deck can pivot to. I just think that's like so huge. Even if your play like almost entirely gets stopped, just being able to just get to Verte and like still be able to like make a DPE is like so huge. A couple generic one-offs that I think you should be probably playing in this deck. Reborn, Burial, Called by the Grave, called just for another defensive option to help us resolve Snake Rain, resolve Ramifications, any of those cards that are discarding, so we're not just like hard minusing one and then losing the duel from there. It's really good. Burial's just so good. I actually, funny enough, wouldn't advocate Burial in this deck if you're not playing the Brave engine. But because we're playing the Brave engine, and it's essentially just another 7th copy of like one of the Brave starters, like that's why I play it. And if not, then obviously you can just send a Reptile and get that engine going anyway. But Reborn's just an insane extender, and don't need to explain that. Really good. And then our final cards in the deck are just our defensive options. A couple cards here, Triple Gamma, and obviously the Driver. As you saw, there are a ton of cards we're activating, whether it's Water Enchantress, Rite of Aramasia, I guess Rite of Aramasia isn't the best example, but Ramifications, as well as Snake Rain. There are so many cards we're activating when our opponent, Fusion Destiny even, if we want to raw shoot it, that are going to give us a chance to Gamma them. Just so huge. On top of the fact that like Curse and Alert tribute a monster as cost, so they tribute a monster to try and bring themselves back. So even if our opponent has something like a DD Crow sided in for us, we can then Gamma them because we would have tributed our monster on field as cost and then just punish them so hard for it. So I think the synergy in the deck is too good. I love Gamma in decks that it has good synergy with offensively, not just defensively, and that's just so good to me. And the last card I have is Chalice. I'm not even going to front with you guys. If you have droplets, please play it here. As I showed you, this deck has a ton of good discards. It has really good synergy with cards that just discard in general. And obviously Droplet is just overall more impactful than Chalice. So I would definitely recommend it. It's up to you. I get it. Right now I'm going to have to just work with Chalice and just go where it takes me. But if you have access to Droplet, I highly recommend. Just play it. I'm sorry. It's just better. But this is still like decent, and you could play anything else you might want. If you just want to play Ash, if you just want to play Drolls for the high roll, if you just want to play Ogre, I know Ogre's getting popularity, whatever you want. But if you have Droplet, I think the right move is Droplet there. But that's right, 53 cards in the main. I feel really good about this. I actually did a ton of test hands to get this deck where I wanted it to be. It feels really consistent, funny enough. If you're going through it and you're like, is this really consistent? 53 cards, like a lot of different engines splashed in? It really is, because it doesn't matter what engine you see. As long as you see 2 or 3 of them, you are like in a good position, like almost always. So I really like it. I haven't had a single like horrible hand in, like, I'm not kidding, like 50 test hands with the deck. It's been good. All right, moving to the extract though. Reptilian Echidna, Alien Shock Trooper M-Frame, and Cosmic Slicer Zroll for the reptile package here. Echidna just really good in the grind game, just being able to make something 0, so it's really easy to clear over, as well as just a free search for any reptile. Really, really nice. Shock Trooper M-Frame, this card is mainly just an alien name, and then Cosmic Slicer Zroll, one of the best win conditions in the entire deck. If you don't know what this card does, on summon it searches any card that has an effect that places an A counter, so either your Alien Kid or your Planet Pollutant Virus. Then it says any monster your opponent controls with an A counter is automatically changed to defense position and cannot activate its effects at all. So they can't even attempt to activate. So it actually like is just insane. So yeah, this win condition is like busted. The idea here mainly is you're going to try and link up into Shock Trooper, then link up him and something else into the Zroll, and then in a play where you've almost always gone through OGDOADIC stuff, you will have a Water Lily in hand and 4 reptiles in grave. You will send something else, whatever you want, and then you will reborn the Shock Trooper M-Frame off of that card. So you will have searched Planet Pollutant Virus, you will then have the Alien Attribute to then wipe the board and then automatically place the A counters, and most decks just can't even beat that. But if you have anything on top of that, it's like probably just auto game from there. Really good. 1 Link Spider, of course, for the Predaplant stuff. This comes up in a couple of different ways. The first thing is like Reptilian Spawn, being able to convert one of those tokens into a Link Spider is really good. But also, if people are playing Ogre right now or want to Ash your Fateful Adventure or your Water Enchantress or whatever, they want to droll you on those to keep you from getting the Griffin, you can still get the token. And just getting the token is still just another body that gets you into a Link Spider, which then can just be half of the material for Verte. So just being able to convert that stuff still into a legit win condition is really what I'm looking at. I'm looking for flexibility there, and that's what I mean with the Brave Engine, where like even if it doesn't resolve for the Omni Negate, sometimes you still just get to Verte because that was half the material for him anyway, and your opponent had to burn a hand trap from hand. So we'll take that all day. And obviously DPE, don't need to explain that. For the Exceeds, we're on 2 copies of King of the Feral Imps, 1 copy of Rika Queen Strenna, and 1 Sacred Tree Beast Hyperiton. This is a mandatory at 2. I would almost play 3 if I had a ton of extra deck space, but I think 2 is fine. This card comes up so much. It's just such a great card at facilitating a ton of reptile names in grave, because you take 2 reptiles that potentially would have been banished if they left the field into an Exceed, so they won't. Then he's another name for a reptile in grave for Water Lily, and then he searches you another reptile, which could be Reptilian Codal, which could be whatever other extender you want. But that's just like so huge that this just searches, like, gets you access to so many reptile names in grave to set up for the Water Lily. Then you have these 2. I'm going to be honest, these have been a little bit underwhelming, all things considered, but if you have a situation where you're really easily set up for a rank 4 play with either Alert or Curse in grave, this is pretty good sometimes. It's either this or obviously the King of the Feral Imps. The one thing I hate about a Hyperiton is he can only negate on the opponent's turn, so it's not even like if you make him early in your turn, he's protecting your board now with a negate. He's not. He can only negate on the opponent's turn, which is such a bummer. They definitely didn't need to nerf him like that. I mean, I guess if something like Strenna exists, it's like kind of like necessary, but I don't know. I don't know if it was fully necessary for them to do that to him, but it's been decent. It just hasn't been, like, it could have been so good. Like, the deck already has a ton of ways to, like, protect your stuff for resolve, to help it resolve, but that was, like, even icing on the cake on top of that. But it is what it is. For some rank 8 plays, Draglubion, this is a Numeron Dragon. This card, use Draglubion to summon this, and then this will have 9,000 attack, so it just helps you secure, like, out of nowhere OTKs if your opponent's not ready. And then the Hope Harbinger. I will be honest, I have been considering potentially playing, what is it? What's his name? Lancelot. It's another number Exceed monster. It's another rank 8. It's generic, but he's like an Omni Negate pretty much. With an also bonus effect where, like, if he has an Exceed material, he can attack directly, and if he ever deals battle damage, he can just target a monster your opponent controls and destroy it. So even going second, he's like a decent removal card that also facilitates Zeus kind of well and stuff. But Hope Harbinger is good in its own right, to be honest. So they're fine. I think they're interchangeable. I kind of wanted to play them both. That way I could, like, turn one end on a rank 8 if I wanted to, but then still have this whole package live. But honestly, in testing it, that situation hasn't come up a ton anyway. You're not usually ending on the rank 8 play. Anyway, so it's not really the end of the world, but yeah, pretty good there. And then for the last two cards, Zeus, of course, like you saw the Exceeds we're playing. If you play that many Exceeds, you play Zeus. And then Omega. I just want to very much so be able to punish the fuck out of my opponent if they are going to like let me resolve Gamma on my turn. You're either making this or you're literally taking those two into Verte immediately. So I just wanted another card that was just like, oh, we're hand ripping 2 from you essentially. And now you have to beat my board with 4 cards, and I was allowed to resolve everything. Usually you're winning that duel like 19 times out of 20. So really good. That's pretty much it for everything. As far as the budget options, real quick, if you did want to cut it and make it into a pure variant, you're just going to drop the Brave Engine. So that's 9 cards from the main. That takes you down to 44. Then you're going to cut these 4, which takes you down to 40. And then I'm probably cutting Foolish Burial, like I said before, and literally everything else can stay, right? So, like, you can cut the Burial, then maybe add, like, one other hand trap or one power one of that, like, is that one on the ban list or something. Whatever you want. Like, it literally doesn't matter. Maybe you just, then you add the second Light Serpent, right? I was talking about to get that 40th card. Whatever you want to do, but that will give you 39, and then that last slot is whatever you want to play. But I really like the Reptile packages right now. It's going to make you see Snake Rain a little more often. It's going to help you see Ramifications a little more often, as well as like Water Lily and stuff. So you are seeing some of the other power cards, just not the generic engines quite as often. But yeah, I think that's going to do it for us here today. I know it's a little bit longer of a list, but it's a 53 card list. I wanted to be thorough because there's not a ton of OGDOADIC reptile content on YouTube anyway, so I wanted to make sure I was hopefully doing a good job explaining everything to anybody who is trying to find a good list that really got them started in a good way. Like, you know what I mean? Gave them the right information in the right way to get started here. But I really feel confident about this list. I think this deck could legit perform like in the competitive scene right now. I really feel confident in it. Is it tier 1? Definitely not. But it's a really strong rogue deck, so definitely don't sleep on it. If you do run into somebody, just be awake, all right? Because they can catch you off guard. But yeah, that's going to do it from here today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. As always, subscribe to the channel if you have not yet and you want to see more deck profiles down the line. I got a couple more coming from Battle of Chaos, and then, of course, down the line, even more so from there. But I love you. Thanks for watching. Let me know your thoughts down below. If there's anything you think I should include, I'm still open to options here. I do feel good about the list, but it doesn't mean it's perfect. I'm always trying to tweak and get better. So let me know any of your thoughts there. I'm out. Peace.